There's a part of you that's been convinced that the way you are now is the way you were always meant to be. That whatever brokenness you carry, whatever weight of failure, insecurity, or self-doubt that sits on your shoulders is somehow permanent. That your suffering defines you. That your past mistakes have sculpted a prison so impenetrable that even the thought of breaking free feels naive. But let me tell you something. You were never created to stay broken. And I don't mean that in some shallow motivational way. This isn't about standing in front of a mirror and repeating affirmations that you don't even believe. No, this is about something deeper, something more profound, something ancient and written into the very structure of reality itself. You are not meant to remain fractured because life itself is a process of transformation. Every single one of us is meant to contend with chaos, to face the darkness, to wrestle with it, and to emerge stronger. Think about it. If you were meant to stay broken, why does every part of your biology, every fiber of your being fight for healing? When you get a wound, your body doesn't sit there and say, well, I guess this is it. No, it heals, it closes, it repairs. That is your design. So why would your mind, your heart, your soul be any different? And why would your spirit be the only thing in all of nature that is meant to remain wounded? It's not. The very fact that you feel the pain of being broken is evidence that you are meant to be whole, because if brokenness was your true state, it wouldn't hurt so much. And yet many of you have accepted it. You've built a home in it. You've decorated the walls of your own suffering with memories of failure, rejection, and fear, as if to make it feel more comfortable, as if to convince yourself that staying there is easier than the terrifying reality of stepping forward into something unknown. Because that's the real issue, isn't it? It's not just the brokenness itself. It's the fear of what comes after it. It's the fear that if you actually let yourself heal, if you actually step out of that place, you won't know who you are anymore. And that's exactly why you have to do it. Because if you have built an identity around your wounds, if you have allowed your past to define your future, then you are not living, you are merely existing. And let me tell you something about existence. Existence without purpose is suffering. Existence without forward motion is hell. And hell isn't some far-off place. It's not something waiting for you in the afterlife. Hell is the state of being trapped in the same cycle of pain over and over again with no end in sight. And if you think that's dramatic, ask yourself this. How many times have you repeated the same mistakes? How many times have you sabotaged yourself? Not because you wanted to, but because that weaker version of yourself, the one you should have killed long ago, whispered in your ear, stay here. It's safer here. How many times have you chosen familiar misery over unfamiliar growth? And look, I get it. The unknown is terrifying. There's a reason people stay in their dysfunction. There's a reason people choose self-destruction over self-discipline. Because discipline requires responsibility, and responsibility means you no longer have an excuse. And that's a terrifying realization, because the moment you accept that you were not created to stay broken, the moment you acknowledge that you have the ability to change, something else comes with it. Accountability. And accountability is heavy, it's burdensome, because suddenly it's no longer the world's fault. Suddenly it's no longer just bad luck or your upbringing or society or whatever convenient excuse you've been holding on to. Suddenly the responsibility to rise, to fight, to become something more is placed squarely on your shoulders. And that is both terrifying and liberating. Because if you are responsible for your suffering, then you are also responsible for your healing. And if you are responsible for your healing, then you are responsible for what comes next. And that is power. That is the most terrifying kind of power, the kind that forces you to admit that you are far more capable than you've let yourself believe. And if that's true, if you are capable of more, then what excuse do you really have left? What justification can you possibly offer for remaining in a life that doesn't serve you? For continuing to repeat the same patterns that keep you trapped? For holding on to an identity that no longer fits? It's time. It's time to wake up. It's time to realize that every second you spend believing that you are too broken to change is a second wasted. And I don't say that lightly. I don't say that to shame you. I say it because you know it's true. You feel it in the deepest part of you. That aching, gnawing dissatisfaction, that's not life being cruel to you. That's your soul calling you forward. That's your spirit telling you there is more. And you can ignore it, you can numb it, you can drown it out with distractions, with vices, with whatever temporary relief makes it easier to silence the truth. But at some point, whether it's today or 5 years from now or on your deathbed, you will have to face the reality that you were never meant to stay like this. And when that moment comes, the only question will be, did you answer the call? Did you step up? Did you take the responsibility? Did you fight for the person you were meant to be, or did you let the weak version win? Because at the end of the day, that's what this comes down to, a choice. Not an easy choice, not a comfortable one, but the most important one you will ever make. And if you think you're not ready, let me tell you something. No one ever is. No one wakes up one morning suddenly equipped with all the strength, all the confidence, all the wisdom they need to step into their potential. That's not how it works. Strength isn't something you find, it's something you earn. It's something you forge, moment by moment, decision by decision. And you can start that process right now. Not tomorrow, not when it's more convenient, right now. Because if you're waiting for the perfect moment, for the perfect opportunity, for the perfect circumstances to finally step forward, you will be waiting forever. It's time to stop waiting. It's time to stop hesitating. It's time to kill that weak version of yourself. There's something you need to understand, something brutally simple yet almost impossible for most people to accept. It's this: excuses will not build your future. They never have and they never will. Every single time you make an excuse, you are actively choosing to remain the same. And don't deceive yourself. It is a choice. You might convince yourself that circumstances forced your hand, that life was unfair, that things didn't go the way they were supposed to. But at the end of the day, none of that changes the reality that you are still responsible for what comes next. People want to believe that their problems are external, that their failures were caused by someone else, that the reason they haven't reached their potential is because life didn't hand them the right opportunities, or because someone hurt them, or because the world is just too difficult. And maybe some of that is true. Maybe you were dealt an unfair hand. Maybe people did betray you. Maybe life has been unreasonably cruel. But so what? So what? What are you going to do about it? Because that's the real question. Not whose fault it was, not who made it difficult, not what went wrong. The real question is, are you going to stay there? Are you going to sit in the ruins of your own excuses, building monuments to the reasons you never became who you were supposed to be? Are you going to let yourself rot in the comfort of blame and self-pity, telling yourself over and over again that it's not your fault, as if that somehow absolves you of the responsibility to move forward? Or are you going to wake up? Are you going to recognize that no excuse, no matter how justified, will build the life you want? That every time you choose to defend your limitations, you make them stronger. That every time you explain why you can't, you reinforce the walls that are keeping you trapped. And that's the thing, isn't it? The walls aren't real. You think they are, you feel like they are, but they are only as real as your belief in them. And that's the cruel irony of it all. The only thing keeping you stuck is the very belief that you are stuck. The moment you decide to reject that belief, the moment you decide that your future is your responsibility, everything changes. But most people won't do that. Most people would rather stay comfortable in failure than risk discomfort in pursuit of success. Because excuses are easy. They let you off the hook. They allow you to believe that you had no choice, that the outcome was never in your hands to begin with. And that's seductive, isn't it? That relief of saying, it wasn't me, wasn't my fault, it was just the way things were. But that relief comes at a cost. And the cost is your future. The cost is the person you were supposed to become. The cost is every dream, every ambition, every possibility that was buried beneath the weight of excuses. And if you don't think that's tragic, then you aren't thinking deeply enough. Because the version of you that could have been, the stronger, wiser, more capable version, is real. It exists, not in some abstract hypothetical sense, but as a real possibility. A version of you that rose above, that fought through, that refused to be defined by circumstances. That version of you is waiting, standing just on the other side of every excuse you've ever made. And every day, every hour, every moment that you refuse to cross that line, You kill that version of yourself a little more. And for what? To protect your ego? To avoid the discomfort of admitting that maybe, just maybe, the reason you haven't achieved what you wanted isn't because life was unfair, but because you didn't do what was necessary? Because you chose comfort over progress? Because you allowed yourself to believe the lie that you had no control? And that's what it is, a lie, a convenient, seductive, destructive lie. One that you have told yourself so many times that you no longer question it. One that has become so ingrained in your identity that letting go of it would feel like tearing apart who you are. But let me ask you this. If the only way to keep your identity intact is to remain weak, is that really the identity you want? If the only way to justify your failures is to stay the same, is that really the kind of justification you're willing to live with? Because let's be honest. There is something inside you that knows that you are meant for more, knows that you are not yet what you could be, knows that the life you are currently living is a shadow of the one you are capable of creating, and no matter how many excuses you make, no matter how many justifications you come up with, that voice will never disappear. It will sit in the back of your mind, whispering the truth you don't want to hear. You could be more. And that truth should terrify you. Because if you could be more, then that means you are currently less than you should be. And if you are less than you should be, that means you have been wasting time. And if you have been wasting time, that means you have been actively participating in your own self-betrayal. But here's the good news. You can stop right now. You can decide right now that you will no longer be at war with your own potential, that you will no longer let yourself off the hook, that you will no longer be a victim of your own excuses, because you do have a choice. You always have. You have always had the power to step forward, to take responsibility, to build instead of complain, to fight instead of retreat. And yes, it will be hard. Yes, it will be painful. Yes, you will have to face parts of yourself that you would rather ignore. But the alternative, the slow decay of staying the same, the soul-crushing realization that you wasted the life you were given, is far worse. So don't wait. Don't tell yourself that you'll start tomorrow or next week or when things feel easier. They won't. The perfect moment will never come. The only moment you will ever have is this one. And in this moment, you have a choice. Excuses, weakness or strength, failure or future. But make no mistake, you cannot have both. Pain has an expiration date. And that isn't some empty platitude, it's a reality, whether you accept it or not. But the length of that expiration date, that part is up to you. You see, pain will not last forever. It is not meant to. It is meant to shape you, to refine you, to teach you something, but never to define you. And yet, how many people do exactly that? How many allow themselves to be permanently marked by what was only ever supposed to be temporary? How many take their suffering and make it their identity rather than seeing it for what it really is? A test. Pain is inevitable. No one escapes it. No one is so wise, so careful, so strategic that they can sidestep suffering altogether. Life does not work that way. And if you think it does, if you are still clinging to the hope that you will somehow find a way to exist without experiencing hardship, then you have already set yourself up for failure. Because when pain does come, and it will, you won't be ready. You will crumble under the weight of it, not because it was too heavy, but because you refuse to build the strength necessary to carry it. But pain itself is not the real problem. The real problem is what people do with it. You've seen it. You may have even done it yourself. People get hurt, and instead of learning, instead of growing, they make a home in their suffering. They settle into it as if it were permanent. They take the pain that should have been a network error occurred. Please check your connection and try again. If this issue persists, please contact us through our help center at helpopenai.com. There's an idea that most people don't fully grasp, and it's this. Power is in your next decision, not in the decisions you made yesterday, not in the ones you regret, not in the opportunities you missed, not in the plans you've been endlessly formulating but never acting on. It's in the next one. And that's terrifying. It's terrifying because it means you are never as stuck as you think you are, It means the walls that seem to confine you, the limitations you convince yourself are real, are nothing more than the sum of decisions you keep making over and over again. And so the question is simple: what will you do next? Most people won't even attempt to answer that honestly. They will find ways to deflect it, to talk in circles, to explain why their situation is different, why they don't have the luxury of choice, why they're waiting for the right moment. But that's a lie. It's a lie designed to protect them from the truth that every second of every day they are making choices. And those choices are either bringing them closer to the person they were meant to be or further away. There is no middle ground. There is no neutrality in this. Every action, every hesitation, every decision, no matter how small, either builds or destroys. And that's the weight of it, isn't it? That's the unbearable burden of being alive and conscious, that you do have power, that your actions do matter. And because of that, the responsibility is yours, not someone else's, not society's, not your past's, yours. But what do most people do with that? Do they use it? Do they step forward into the terrifying but exhilarating reality that they can change? No. Most people shrink from it. They run from it. They convince themselves that they are powerless because power demands something from you. Power demands discipline. It demands sacrifice. It demands that you stop hiding behind your circumstances and start shaping them instead. And that's uncomfortable because the moment you accept that your next decision holds power, you also have to accept that you can no longer blame anything else. You can no longer tell yourself that you are merely a product of your environment, that you are at the mercy of external forces, that you are waiting on some grand moment of clarity or inspiration to strike before you finally start moving. No, you have to act, you have to choose. You have to make the hard decisions that terrify you, and you have to do it now because power doesn't accumulate passively. It doesn't wait for you. It doesn't care how long you've been suffering, how unfair life has been, how difficult the road ahead looks. It just sits there waiting for the moment you decide to claim it, waiting for the second you finally realize that the only thing separating you from who you want to be is the courage to act. But here's the problem. Most people want power without responsibility. They want to feel strong without doing what strength requires. They want confidence without discipline, success without struggle, transformation without sacrifice. And that's why they stay the same. That's why they repeat the same mistakes, have the same problems, live the same year over and over again and call it a life. Because the price of power is effort. And effort is uncomfortable. So instead, they hesitate, they overthink, they wait. They tell themselves they need more time, more preparation, more certainty before they act. But what they don't realize is that hesitation is also a decision. Indecision is a decision. It's a decision to let your fears dictate your future. It's a decision to surrender your power to doubt, to procrastination, to weakness. And the more you do that, the weaker you become. Because every time you refuse to act, you reinforce the belief that you can't act. Every time you hesitate, you make it easier to hesitate again. And so a person who could have been strong, who could have built something meaningful, who could have changed their entire life with a series of courageous decisions, becomes nothing more than a shadow of what they were meant to be. Not because they weren't capable, not because they weren't smart enough or talented enough, but because they chose not to act, because they let hesitation become their master. And the only way out of that, the only way to reclaim the power that is already yours, decide right now, decide that the next choice you make will not be ruled by fear. That the next action you take will be one that builds, not one that delays. That the next step forward will be one you take boldly, even if you are unsure, even if you are scared, even if you feel like you're not ready. Because readiness is a myth. No one is ever ready. No one ever feels fully prepared before they take a leap. They just leap. And the ones who have built extraordinary lives, who have become something more than they once were, are not the ones who waited for perfect conditions. They are the ones who acted despite uncertainty. And that is what separates the strong from the weak, the powerful from the powerless, the ones who rise from the ones who never leave the ground. So what will you do next? That is the only question that matters. Not what you've done before, not what you regret, not what could have been, just this, your next decision. Because in that decision, and in the one after that, and the one after that. Your entire future is waiting. And there's a moment in every person's life when they realize that no one is coming to save them. It might come in a flash of painful clarity, or it might creep in slowly the way the weight of time does. But eventually, if you're paying attention, you will understand this is on you. Your life, your path, your failures, your future. And that's not an easy truth to accept. In fact, it's one of the hardest things a person can confront. Because if no one is coming to save you, then that means you are responsible for saving yourself. And if you are responsible for saving yourself, then that means everything depends on what you do next. That's an overwhelming thought, isn't it? Because suddenly, there's no one left to blame, no one left to point at, no one left to hold accountable for where you are, except for the person staring back at you in the mirror. And the terrifying part of that realization is that deep down, you know the truth. You know that there were times you could have tried harder, times you could have been more disciplined, times you could have refused to make excuses, refused to let yourself off the hook, refused to let fear dictate your next move. But you didn't. You fell into the same patterns. You allowed yourself to remain trapped in habits that you knew were keeping you weak. You ignored the small voice inside you that whispered, you were meant for more. And instead of listening, instead of rising, instead of fighting to become something better, you did what was easy. You waited. You hesitated. You let another day pass without change, another week, another year. And now here you are, standing in the wreckage of all the choices you didn't make. And yet you are still here. And because you are still here, there is still a chance. A chance to tear down the excuses you've been hiding. A chance to finally stop playing the victim and start taking control. A chance to decide that today, not tomorrow, not next week, not next year, today is the day you wake up. Because if you wait any longer, if you keep lying to yourself, if you keep telling yourself that you need just a little more time, you need to feel a little more ready, you need to wait for the perfect moment, you will die waiting. You will wake up 10 years from now, looking back at a decade of wasted potential, and the only thing you will be able to do is mourn the person you could have been. And that should terrify you more than anything else, because that version of you is real, the strong one, the disciplined one, the one who refuses to be controlled by fear, who does what is necessary instead of what is easy. That version of you could exist, but only if you kill the weak one first. And no one can do that for you. No one can step in and change your life for you. No one can force you to rise. That has to come from you. So the question is simple. Are you willing? Are you willing to let go of the version of yourself that is keeping you trapped? Are you willing to kill the habits, the patterns, the behaviors that have kept you weak? Are you willing to sacrifice the things that are holding you back, even if they feel comfortable, even if they feel safe, even if they are all you have ever known? Because that's the price. That's what it costs to become something more. It costs everything. Everything that is small, everything that is weak, everything that keeps you chained to the person you no longer want to be. And if you aren't willing to pay that price, if you aren't willing to suffer for your own potential, then you have already made your choice. But if you are willing to let go of your old self, to strip away everything that no longer serves you, to stop making excuses and start doing what is necessary, then you will see something incredible happen. You will see yourself change, not all at once, not in some grand dramatic transformation, but piece by piece, choice by choice, step by step. You will see the weak version of you die. And in its place, something stronger will rise. But it has to start now, because no one is coming. No one is going to save you. No one is going to hand you the life you want. It's on you. It's always been on you. So what are you waiting for?